Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Dev Parkour. I'm Brian Parks, and in this video, I want to talk about whether you need to essentially stop what you're doing in order to invest in scalability, security, maintainability, all those sorts of things that we're talking about throughout this entire process, or if you can continue to make progress on feature work and bug fixes while also investing in scalability and everything else. My opinion is that yes, you should do both at the same time, because especially if you have an existing product that people are using, that people are expecting to see, especially bug fixes on, you can probably take a little bit of a break on new feature work, um, as long as you communicate adequately around that. But the big thing is, if people are using your software, they're going to be finding bugs, especially if you don't have some of the safeguards that we've been talking about. If you don't have testing, if you don't have necessarily the most maintainable code, if you don't have security checks in place, people will be finding bugs. There's definitely a higher probability that bugs will get found in your code. All code has bugs. Code that's less maintainable, less secure, less tested, has more bugs, and the more customers you have using your software, the more bugs they're going to find. It's just the nature of software development. So if you have customers using your software, there are going to be bugs. You need to be working on bugs throughout this whole process. You can probably slow down a little bit on feature development, again, with the proper communication, but that means that you kind of have some people, or if you're just one person, some of your time is working on bugs, the rest of the time is working on scalability, maintainability, security, all those things. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with stopping work entirely on that and focusing exclusively on scalability, maintainability, all the illities that we're talking about. But if you're going to do that, what my recommendation is that you spend a good chunk of time evaluating the code. So doing some of the things that I've been doing with Glassminnow for the last several weeks. I haven't written a whole lot of new code. I've just been opening up the app, working through it, clicking some of the buttons, seeing what happens, seeing what breaks, seeing if I can save things. I think I ran into an issue there where I entered some information and tried to save and it didn't work. So finding those areas, you could call that a bug, but one way or another, it's something that through this process will have to get fixed. And then looking through the code, looking for hotspots like I did on Monday. Once you've done that, then you can start to say, okay, from this point forward, we're going to be focusing on scalability for some length of time. And I would recommend putting some time box on it. That time box is not, we have to do all of the scalability things. That time box is after that, let's just say 3 months has elapsed. That's what we're going to be communicating to customers, that we're focusing on the quality of the code, the stability of the code base, pitch it in terms of customer value. But at the end of those 3 months, we're not necessarily saying that it's going to be perfect. We're not necessarily saying this whole process is going to be done. But at that point, that's when we're going to start putting bug work back in, new feature work back in, alongside the maintainability, the scalability pieces. What that allows you to do is focus exclusively on the most important areas that are not currently scalable, maintainable, tested, what have you, so that you guarantee at least those 3 months will get, I hesitate to say the low-hanging fruit, but the most important things that you're trying to get out of this process, you will have accomplished in those 3 months. Whatever you can get done in 3 months, that's what you'll have done in those 3 months. So that's my recommendation if you're going to stop, new feature work, bug fixes, that sort of thing. Now, obviously, in the case of Glass Minnow, I don't have customers using it, so I can do whatever I want. I can go at the pace that I want to go. I can, not build new features, new bugs, which I'm not. I'm focusing exclusively on scalability and maintainability right now. And I have ideas for new features. They're going on a list. I'm not worrying about them right now. I'm encountering bugs. As long as they don't prevent me from actually using the software and being able to test some of the improvements that I'm making, I'm not worrying about them right now. The saving issue that I found in a previous video, I'm pretty sure that's still broken. I haven't touched that. It's probably in exactly the same state as it's been, because I've been focused on some of the more foundational pieces and just continuing to evaluate what isn't scalable, maintainable, testable, that sort of thing. One thing that I do want to mention is if you're going to do everything in parallel, so you are going to continue to build new features, fix bugs, while some of your time is spent on scalability and maintainability, or while other people on your team are focused on scalability and maintainability. It's important that you don't keep doing things just like you always have been. Because remember, whatever you were doing before got you to this situation. That doesn't mean it's bad. You may have been solely focused on getting a proof of concept out the door. In that case, getting code done quickly and not worrying about some of these other things, not necessarily a bad thing, right? As you start to get bigger and bigger, the curve starts to flatten out, right? The amount of value you get for every line of code that you write starts to flatten out if you don't course correct and start really focusing on scalability, maintainability, security, everything else. So if you're at that point where that curve is starting to flatten out, and now you are starting to focus, really heavily on these ilities that we're talking about, make sure that when you do new feature development, new bug fixes, you're approaching them from a perspective of scalability, maintainability, security, so that you're not introducing new problems while you're trying to fix the old problems. Basically, you don't, one step forward, two steps backward. You want to keep making progress. You don't want to introduce new tech debt, and especially if you have like automated tools. Like in future videos, we'll be setting up things like SonarQube and ZA Proxy, I think I mentioned. If you have tools like that in place, you can start running them against new code and make sure that you're not introducing new things, right? Each new commit doesn't necessarily have to reduce the code smells or security issues that SonarQube, for instance, finds, but maybe it shouldn't increase those numbers, right? You should make sure that at least your security score doesn't go down. If you're at a D right now, making a new commit of code, if it's still a D after that commit, that's not necessarily a bad thing, of course, unless you're specifically trying to raise that score. But if you're just doing a new feature, as long as you stay at a D and don't drop below that, that might be okay. So those are my thoughts on, basically you don't have to stop making progress in order to focus on scalability and maintainability. Granted, less people doing it, it might go a little bit more slowly, but you can successfully do both in parallel, especially if you have existing customers. You want to keep them happy. You want to show them that you are focusing on their needs, not just the other needs that they don't know they have yet. Which that's where security, scalability, maintainability comes into play, right? Because as soon as a customer wants to scale and your product doesn't, then they're going to start complaining about that. Your customer finds a bug and it takes you forever to fix it because you can't change that piece of code. That's a maintainability issue. That's an issue that the customer is going to feel. Same vein with maintainability. If they want you to add a new feature and you want to add that new feature for them, but it's going to take months and months and months, that's a maintainability issue. Security, eventually you will run into a customer that is going to want to run a security test against your code. It's just going to happen. It's 2021. Cybersecurity is big news. Everybody really should be focused on cybersecurity, probably a lot more than they currently are. But somebody's going to run a pen test against your software. If you can't react to that, or ideally if you've already done your own pen tests and you know what vulnerabilities are there, and you fix the ones that you can, and the other ones you have really good reasons why they still exist, that's going to be an issue. If a customer finds that, you need to be able to react to that, or ideally proactively solve it. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Hope you liked this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you'll know when the next video is posted. Yeah, leave a comment down below if you have any other ideas. If you've gone through this process and want to talk about success stories, things that didn't go so well, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'd love to read them and possibly use them as examples in future videos. Be sure to check out this entire series. Coming Monday, we'll actually, I think we're going to be playing around with SonarQube. So still not real code, but we'll be looking at code and evaluating it. And that might be something new and different that you may not have seen. So be sure to subscribe and keep an eye out for that video on Monday. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.